Hi, I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, and this is Building Georgina. On today's show, we'll be discussing the town's Safe Street Monitoring Program, including measures the town uses to improve traffic calming for road safety and speed reductions, including those very popular automated speed cameras. And I have with me today Kate Welcome, Supervisor of Traffic Safety and Operations.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Kent Huffin, Manager of Infrastructure Planning and Operations Support. Welcome to you both. We'll have a great discussion about all things traffic safety and safe streets. You know, many residents have questions about the new speed cameras, and we'll get into all of that because there's a lot of questions about why they're there, what they do, how you pay them, you know, is it a tax grab, all those things. So we'll cover all of that. But let's take a step back, because part of our strategic plan and one of our strategic pillars is creating a vibrant, safe, and healthy community for everybody. And one of that, part of that is the expansion of the traffic and road safety programs that's been outlined. And I think we need to talk a little bit about what that is, because one of the biggest concerns as mayor and as a councillor, that I've been on council since 1994, one of the biggest concerns that residents have is speeding on their streets. Everybody is concerned about speeding on their streets, whether it's because they've got kids walking to school, they have pedestrians, strollers, bicyclists, all those things. So it's a big issue, and I know it's something that we've been working on over many years, trying to improve the road safety. So what are we doing now to try to make our roads safer? I'll let Kent sort of explain sort of the policy side of things.
Yeah, sure. I'll kind of lay out some of the groundwork. So the town of Georgina is committed to making streets safer and more accessible for all users. We work with residents and councillors to address street safety by using a series of tools and a data-driven, scientific approach to enhance community safety. And these tools kind of make up our Safe Streets for Safe Use initiative, which is built on our Safe Streets policy.
So it's data-driven, and so you're trying to get the information, because not all things work on every street. You know, a speed camera works on some streets, a speed bollard works on something else. So we're trying to get something that works for the streets that are involved. So what is the Safe Streets for Safe Use initiative? Maybe explain a little bit about that.
So the Safe Streets for Safe Use initiative, it's a program that delivers our Safe Streets policy. It was introduced to enhance road safety for users, and it's focused on 4 main pillars, which are community, education, engineering, and enforcement. And so just to kind of go through those, in terms of community, as I previously mentioned, we're working with residents and with council to sort of address some of these areas. And that could be things such as introducing community safety zones, or in the example of Road Watch, for instance, where people can report aggressive or drivers that may not be following the speed and that sort of thing. And then going into education, there's sort of 3 components that we're looking at in order to deliver the education. One of them would be looking to share information on our website at georgina.ca. That's a great wealth of information that we have available there. Working with our communications staff as well. We have excellent social media, and so leveraging that to get the message out and to educate the public on the different programs and initiatives that we have underway. And then the other component is sort of, I'd say, sort of miscellaneous, things like what we're doing here today, you know, having discussions and trying to get that information out. But it could be, you know, participating in other events or going to schools and things like that too, because, you know, traffic safety isn't just the motorists, it's pedestrians and cyclists and students, right? So that's another big component. The other one that I mentioned there was engineering. And so when it comes to engineering, we're focusing on, as we already mentioned, really that data-driven scientific approach. We want to make sure that we're using empirical metrics and measures and data that we're collecting in the field to inform our decision making. But we're also leveraging other tools that are in existence in the industry. So we rely upon the Transportation Association of Canada and some of the guidelines that they put out, along with provincial standards like OPSDs and the Ontario traffic manuals, because they can guide us on how we implement signage. So they help to ensure that we're aligned with our particular needs and really focus on the right tool at the right time and at the right location. And that's the engineering
That's a key part. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned community, and we often get residents emailing my office or their ward councillor saying, you know, the speed is too high on my street. So if a resident feels that they need to have some safe measures put in, what do they do? Is it just emailing me, or is other ways that they can reach out to staff to?
Yeah, I would advise them to contact Service Georgina. That's a great first point, just to sort of get their message across that they may have concerns about the way that motorists are behaving in their neighborhood. And then we sort of take that information and we look at the different tools that we have available, whether that's data collection in terms of tracking the number of vehicles and also looking at the distribution of the speeds that are happening through a certain neighborhood or a segment of road, to then make an informed decision on how we can best tackle that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the other E, the engineering. So how does that fit into the whole program? Because we know not every road is the same. So how does the engineering work into it?
So again, our biggest focus with that is using the right tool at the right time in the right location. And how we do that is, we want to make sure that we have good data collection and that sort of thing. But the other component to that is constructing. Like when we're out constructing roads as well, we want to make sure that we have sort of future-proofing our roads, and that we're taking into consideration growth and the needs and the wants of the community for that road. So with regards to the Safe Streets for Safe Use initiative, engineering helps us guide, or it helps to guide us when conducting the data collection and the data analysis. We can leverage those guidelines that I spoke to about Transportation Association of Canada, and we want to make those science-based empirical decisions, so that way we are using verifiable and observed experiences and not relying anecdotal or subjective
I think
sources
this could
of
work,
information.
or I think that could work.
That's correct, yeah.
So what are some of the things that we use? I know we've done bollards and speed humps. So maybe, Kate, tell us a little bit about some of the engineering things that we can put in place.
Sure. So traffic calming measures are designed to calm down traffic.
There's that phrase, traffic calming.
So they're designed to slow vehicles down in busy areas, specifically residential, where we know there's concerns to all road users. So some of those measures consist of traffic bollards, speed humps. Sometimes it's just increased signage, but we have processes in place to help us determine what measure is best suited for which
location?
Exactly.
Because I've seen like pavement markings approaching a school zone, or just even the speed limit, posted on the road, so that people, because there's so many signs around, you get visually overloaded on things. So those types of measures are trying to get the message to the driver. Here's the speed limit. Go the speed limit is the message out there.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of our most common traffic calming measures is the traffic bollards, and so they're designed to narrow the road, so to have vehicles slow down because of that narrowing effect. So we in Georgina have them at various locations throughout the town, and we have two main designs. One is we consist of 3 bollards. One is a larger bollard in the center, and then 2 smaller bollards closer to the edge. You got it.
And it does. You almost feel like you want to take your deep breath in as you go through.
And that's right.
And that's the idea. You're slowing down, you're going through an area. And again, not every street can be set up for a bollard, and you've got to make sure you place them in the right locations.
That's why we have the 2 designs. For narrow roads, we can just place 2 bollards compared to 3.
Right. And you mentioned traffic calming, and we were talking earlier, and I said I used to, and I still we get requests for stop signs to slow down the traffic. Maybe tell us a bit about, do stop signs slow down the traffic, and are they part of the traffic calming measures?
Right. It's kind of a misconception. We do not use stop signs as a traffic calming measure within our policy. Stop signs are really just to guide the flow of traffic when there's not a clear right-of-way direction. So those are in place to signify who needs to stop, who has the right-of-way. It's not meant to slow traffic as a whole. Right. So we don't actually recommend installing stop signs, for traffic calming.
Yeah. Now, speed bumps, speed humps, whichever term you want to use. Again, over the years, it's been a request from many residents, put a speed bump in. We do have a pilot program.
That's
and maybe tell us a bit about that program.
Yeah, it launched in 2023, and we installed several speed humps at selected trial locations, and we're actually going to a second phase this year, and we're going to be installing additional speed humps at existing locations. And basically, the purpose behind a speed hump is to make vehicles feel uncomfortable as they're driving over a speed hump at excessive speeds. So to cause that discomfort, to have them slow down, And yeah, so we're trialing.
You're trying that,
Yeah.
and we're going to expand that,
Exactly.
that program. So reducing speeds in community safety zones can save lives. How do we determine what is where a community safety zone should be placed?
Yes.
And it's not just, people think, oh, a school zone. That's part of it, but it's more. So maybe tell us.
Absolutely. So it's areas where there might be vulnerable users, pedestrians and cyclists and other users of the roadway. We really focus on areas where there needs to be a heightened attention brought to motorists to exercise caution in
Right.
those areas, right? And so they can range from 30 to 50 kilometer an hour is the speed limits through the community safety zones, and they range from about 500 meters in length to 2.5 kilometers in length.
Right.
And
we have a predetermined process to determine a community safety zone, and also how a community safety zone looks to the public, so they are aware of they're coming into something that needs extra caution.
yeah, there's standardized signage that we use to allow motorists exactly to what you were saying there, so that way it feels familiar. It's something that they drive through on a regular basis, and so it should be easy for them to identify. Again, the signage and the spacing of the signs and that sort of thing is continuous and consistent.
Right.
So that way, again, people know how to operate, and again, to bring that that common element of caution and safety when they're coming through that area.
Right, and as I said, it's been proven that reducing speed saves lives. In one of the reports, there was a really interesting chart that showed pedestrian survival rates and the traffic speed. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. I don't know, Kate, if you want to mention that.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great example because it shows that when vehicles are driving at 30 kilometers an hour, the survival rate is actually 90%.
Wow.
So driving slower, also just in those odd occasions where there could be a collision, it reduces the severity of those collisions. Yep.
And that's the whole goal is to reduce speed.
Yeah.
So when we come back, we're going to do a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk all things automated speed cameras, and we'll talk about those reduced speeds, and we'll talk about how the program works. So don't go away. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about our automated speed cameras here in Georgina. And this is Building Georgina, and I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk. Come back. Hi, I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, and this is Building Georgina. Today we're talking about safe streets, the monitoring program that we have, and in this segment we're going to get into talking about the automated speed cameras. And these are new for Georgina. We made the decision last year to implement the speed cameras. They're not new in the province. There's a number of communities that have installed them. Maybe tell us a bit about the speed cameras, how we decide where to put them, how they work. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. They're not monitoring 24/7. So tell us a bit about the cameras and where we chose to put the locations.
For sure. You mentioned that they've been successfully implemented in other municipalities within Ontario, North America, but even here in York Region, our neighboring municipalities have also decided to implement ASC cameras as well. Here in Georgina, ASC, also known as Automated Speed Enforcement, is a tool within our Safe Streets monitoring program. And so it's just another traffic calming measure we can lean to when necessary.
Right, and as we said before, reducing the speed is the ultimate goal.
Yep.
People have complained for many years about the speeds on their streets, particular areas. This is one way to counter that and to get the speeds reduced, to improve, as we said earlier, the collisions and the survival rate between a car and a pedestrian. We don't want those things to happen in the beginning, but if we can improve the survival rates and reduce the speeds. So we looked at a number of areas, and we decided as a council to do one in each ward, so that everybody, because I know in some municipalities they concentrate them in other, they don't look at it from a ward point of view and spreading them around. They look at the highest need. And so we looked at the highest need within each ward. So maybe tell us how we did that and where the cameras are.
That's correct. So in Ward 1, our camera's on Loudons Avenue. In Ward 2, it's on Wexford. We also have Church Street, Maple, and Station Road.
Right.
So those are our 5 camera locations, one in each ward like you mentioned.
And that's currently, and they're not going to stay there forever. So we are going to, how long are they going to stay there and how will they move around?
Right. So they are proposed to be there for 3 to 6 months, and we are hoping to rotate them within the ward. So there will always be representation within each ward, 1 camera per ward. And as you mentioned, we have a policy in place that allows us to prioritize our traffic calming measures.
Right.
So again, ASC is just one of the tools we select in cases where we've determined that speeding is a concern. It has to be in locations that are designated as community safety zones.
Not necessarily a school zone. That's where
correct.
people get confused thinking, because I had somebody, I saw a post for the one on Wexford saying why it's not near a school.
Right.
Why is it here?
Yeah.
But community
we have the
safety
library,
zones.
we have pedestrians walking to a near school parks, near
Right.
parks. So active transportation trails. So there's multiple reasons why we feel a need for increased safety in those
zones, right? So they have to go into a community safety zone that we determine through the data that we've gathered with the traffic counts and concerns from residents. We'll go out and investigate. We determine it's a community safety zone, and then we take a step forward and say, what's the best method to calm the traffic? If it's a speed camera, then we place them. And there's a lot of restrictions on how long we have to give advance notice for the cameras. Maybe tell us about that, and then how do we determine when we move them around and where they get shifted to?
Yeah, absolutely. So signage was installed 90 days prior to the cameras going live, which was on April 10th of this year.
Right.
So 90 days prior, we installed signage that indicated that cameras were coming soon. And so when the camera is present, we did switch them to signage that indicated in use.
In use, right.
Yep.
So people are aware. And where can people, if they're watching, they're going, oh, I miss where they all are.
Right.
Where can people see where the cameras are?
Right, so the standard layout is you'll enter a community safety zone, so you'll see the signage indicating a community safety zone begins. You'll have a reminder of what the posted speed limit is through a signage indicating the max speed. Then you'll also have an advance notice of the camera signage indicating in use.
Right.
And then after the camera, you will also have a reminder that you're exiting a community safety zone.
So if I wanted to see where they are, I can go onto our website, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you go to georgina.ca/safety cameras, we list the current locations, but we also have an interactive traffic calming map that shows the locations on that with our other traffic calming measures as well.
Right, so you can see where there's ballers, you can see where there's reduced speeds, you can, the speed humps, all of those things. So now I've got a ticket, which I haven't yet, so touch wood, but I've got the ticket. How do I pay that ticket?
Of course. We provided pretty clear instructions on the ticket itself. It outlines how you can make your payment online, how you can dispute your ticket even. But if you actually go to that same website address, georgina.ca/safety cameras, you'll be able to see all our program details and information if you wanted to do a little background search of the program before you make your payment.
So you can pay online, you can go to the Civic Center and make the payments in person if you want, but there is a portal that you can go on and pay the ticket that way. So when it comes to getting the ticket, and people often, you'll see on social media, what's the threshold? What's the speed limit? When am I going to get a ticket?
Right.
I always tell people, if you go to the speed limit, you're pretty sure you're not going to get a ticket.
Right. And one of the main purposes of ASC cameras is to have compliance. We really want drivers to be driving this posted speed limit. So if you are exceeding that speed limit, you could be receiving a ticket. But the process is once you pass a speed camera, it's actually equipped with a speed sensor as well as the camera, and that data is transferred to a processing center where it's actually reviewed by a live person, a provincial offense officer. So the offense takes review, there's a process behind the camera, and then you will receive a ticket within the mail within 30 days,
of the of the offense.
Yeah, exactly.
So the camera takes a picture of the license plate, doesn't take a picture of the driver.
That's correct.
It's just the license plate.
That's correct.
And that it's whoever's driving that vehicle. We don't care. The ticket goes to the license holder of that vehicle.
That's a good point.
And yeah, because people wonder about, well, is it taking my picture? Is it is it a surveillance camera? I've seen all sorts of questions online about that. And again, I see that I was only doing 2 kilometers over and I got a speeding ticket. Is that possible? I know we're not going to get into what our thresholds are, but is it realistically possible that somebody would get a ticket for going 2 over?
Well, we're just trying to drive home the message that we want you to drive the speed limit. So there might be situations where you receive a speed ticket.
It's not the camera isn't discretionary as a police officer. If you're speeding and a police officer pulls you over and you're doing 10 over, the police officer might say, okay, just slow down, and discretion gives them the option to not give that ticket. For the speed camera, the discretion is go the speed limit.
That's right.
And that's to ensure that you won't get a ticket.
Yeah.
But I still want to say, if somebody gets a ticket and they're doing 2 kilometers over, I want to see that ticket because I don't think that's going to trigger it, but I don't want to put out what the thresholds are because we want to get compliance to that posted speed limit. That's the goal. The other question people say, this is just a tax grab. It's just a money grab. It's just the town wanting to make more money. Where do the funds go from the tickets that we do get? Where do the funds go?
Yes, so the benefit in doing this is that we're reinvesting that money into other street safety and road safety initiatives, and so it's not. That's sort of a misnomer. It's actually going back and being invested back into the community for other things like the speed humps and for the bollards and other initiatives that we're working on. And so, again, it's going back into the community to, again, try and make a more comprehensive and robust traffic safety system.
Right, and for the roads budget as well, putting it into, investing into the roads in terms of improved safety, not only just the traffic calming, but road improvements.
Yes.
So I think that's part of it. So when will we get some of the data? I think council members are interested in knowing how effective this is.
Yeah.
Is it reducing the speed? Is it beneficial? Is it what funds are being generated?
Of course. So like all our traffic calming measures, we do continue to monitor what is implemented. So we'll continue to monitor the success of the ASC cameras, and we hope to report back to council in the fall with a detailed report outlining everything we've mentioned today in our discussion.
Yeah, so we'll see the volume of tickets, and that's where we
can revisit decisions.
Exactly.
Any excess revenue can be decided at that time.
Yeah, we said over a certain amount, then we'll decide whether we want to put that into reducing taxes is an option as well, because we don't know, and this is something new for us. We don't know what the volume of tickets is going to be, and we want to make sure that it's a program that pays for itself. One of the things that we did a mascot. We have Shelley.
Yes.
Maybe tell us a little bit about Shelley.
Yeah, Shelley was she's our traffic safety mascot. You might be familiar with Shelley as she was featured on all our signage leading up to April 10th, the launch of our cameras.
And Shelley's a turtle.
Yeah, she's our safety turtle. And she was featured on our signage that kind of gave the public advance notice of this program. And she is going to be featured in a lot of our educational initiatives and just our communication going forward regarding our traffic safety programs.
One thing I forgot to ask was when people are issued a ticket, they don't get demerit points. No. So this is not a demerit point because it's not tied to the driver. It's tied to the vehicle.
Just a monetary fine.
Right. So again, going back to if people feel they want to have a speed camera in a location, how would they go about doing that?
For sure. So similar to any traffic calming measure, we would follow the Safe Streets policy to find the best fit for a road segment. So we're not necessarily taking requests for cameras, but if we determine that speeding is an issue within a road segment, we can certainly use ASC as appropriate. But most importantly, as we already mentioned, if you find that you have a concern regarding traffic safety, to call into our Service Georgina team, and a public request will be create it, and our traffic safety team will review all those requests.
Right.
And will
look at if we want to do something in that street, because I think that's where people want to feel empowered, that they have some control or some input into the safety on their streets. So I know that we'll learn more about the cameras when we get our update, but this has been very interesting, and I hope very informative to the public on the speed cameras. They aren't a tax grab, they are a method to reduce speed. People have always complained about speeding. This is a way to do that, to improve road safety and to add that safety measure to the users of the street, whether you're on a bike, whether you're walking, whether you're in a stroller. But this has been an interesting show. Thank you both, Kate and Kent, for being on here. This has been Building Georgina. I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, and we've learned all about our Safe Streets program and our speed enforcement cameras. Thank you for listening in, and come back again when we have our next show.